Hello everybody, this is John. Welcome to the Ag Weather Outlook for April 25th, 2015. Here's the precipitation that fell over the last week. There was some needed rain over much of Iowa. The area in yellow is over 2 inches as an estimate. But once again, over the upper Midwest, the Dakotas, even most of Kansas, you can see some scattered thunderstorms in there, not a whole lot of precipitation. Over the eastern Corn Belt, we did have a modest precipitation, as you can see in green, generally about a ½ inch up to about an inch. So if we look at the percentage normal over the last week, what we see here is Iowa received above normal precipitation. Everywhere else, it was a real mix. We had some areas above normal, as indicated in blue, some areas below normal, indicated in red. Now, if we look at the last number of rain days in the last 7 days, this gives you some idea of trends. But once again, we don't see a real clear pattern of excessive either dry or wet days over the last week. But if we look at the last 30 days, we see that trend a lot clearer. We see that from Wisconsin and then the eastern Corn Belt, primarily eastern Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio, we see 11 to 15 days, or maybe even more in spots, more than 15 days out of the last 30, there's been some measurable precipitation. On the other hand, look at the upper Midwest here. We're looking at that area of brown, especially South Dakota. That's only indicating 2 to 3 days of rain over the last 30 days. So we've really seen this divide right here of wet in this region here, or at least wetter, and then very dry in this region. Now, temperatures last week, remember a couple weeks ago I said we're going through a transition, then we're getting into this cool pattern. So we did have below normal temperatures over the entire Corn Belt last week. Coldest anomalies were over the upper Midwest. Look at that purple, 10 degrees below normal over parts of Minnesota. Most areas, though, anywhere from 2 to about 5 or 6 degrees below normal. Soil moisture, areas in green indicate greater amounts of soil moisture, but I think it shows up better in soil moisture anomalies. That pattern that I've been talking about, above normal precipitation, equates to above normal soil moisture over the eastern Corn Belt, and we're getting very significant dry anomalies over the Dakotas and Nebraska and Kansas and parts of Minnesota. So keep that in mind as I go through my briefing. That is really where we need the precipitation. So looking at the jet stream, we're having another change, and spring is a time of change. It's very rare that we stay in one pattern for a long time, as we do in both winter and summer. We go through changes in the jet stream. The jet stream is very active. And really the pattern we're having is not all that vigorous. What we're going to have, the shift is going to be to a bulging north jet stream as we get into the latter part of this month and into May, and you see that in shades of brown. And then the blue, the dipping south of the jet stream, is going to recede off to the east. So this is this week. It's going to be another transition, but this time it's going to be a transition to warmer weather. But it's going to linger over the east, and then as we finally get into the latter part of April into May, look at that jet stream. It bulges well to the north over most of the region, and you know what that means, warmer than normal temperatures. And I'll show you that here. This is this week, and this is going to be the pattern over the upper Midwest and parts of the central Corn Belt. It's going to be above normal as far as temperatures, and then it's going to lag in the eastern part of the region with below normal temperatures, not necessarily excessively so. Then as we get into the period of early May, what you see here is that warmth has spread over the entire area. Again, not excessively so, but we're going to above normal temperatures, anywhere just generally between 2 to about 5 or 6 degrees, maybe 8 degrees above normal. So that is the transition that I'm talking about now. Now, as far as precipitation, looks pretty quiet. This is a band of possibly severe weather early in the forecast period, sort of moving in this direction. But other than that, look at this. It looks like a very quiet type pattern as far as precipitation goes. And if we look at the precipitation anomalies, here's week 1. A lot of yellow, below normal precipitation. And week 2, looks generally to me nothing extraordinary one way or the other. I'm sort of leaning towards persistence, bringing persistence in here, and we could have a couple weeks of fairly quiet weather. Matter of fact, this is from a model, an accumulated rainfall. This is a total rainfall over a 10-day period through May 5th. And, really, if I just look at most of the region, it looks pretty quiet. So I think we're looking at a very quiet period for the most part for the next 10 days. Doesn't mean that we won't have some thunderstorms with maybe some severe weather very early in this period, and maybe from time to time, and it could produce very heavy rain. But the overall pattern looks pretty quiet. Then if we go out to week 3, this goes over to a climate model, so I take this with a grain of salt. Nothing extraordinary one way or the other. So here are your current 5 centimeter soil temperatures. It took a hit this week because of the cooler temperatures. You can see that 60-degree line was pushed to the south. And this is where we're starting here. Let's keep an eye sort of on that yellow. That's 60 degree. As we go through the week, you can see we do see some changes in the west with the warmer air pushing into the west. But really, we don't see a whole lot of northward progression over the next 3, 4, 5 days. I think it's going to be after that. So if you're looking for warmer soil moisture temperatures, it's going to be after Thursday. I think we're going to see a significant rise as we get into the very end of the month and then into the first week of May. So here's your close-up towards the end of the week as far as soil moisture temperatures go. This is the 55 to 60 degree, this lighter green, but you don't really see over the eastern corn belt the 60s getting in. I think next week's briefing I'm going to be seeing a lot more yellow in that area. And over the western and the Great Plains, you can see 60s. We're beginning to see this pop up here and there. Again, I think we're going to see a lot of this area here that's light green be that yellow in next week's briefing. So here are your takeaway points. We're going to have some lingering cool temperatures in the east this week. It'll be warming in the west. But it looks like overall the transition this time is going to be towards a warming trend as we head into the first week in May, and that's going to be both air temperatures and soil moisture or soil temperatures. But it looks like as far as precipitation, a very quiet pattern with below normal precipitation right into the early part of May. So that's this week's briefing. I know everybody's getting geared up to get going this spring. Hopefully we'll bring you some good weather for your area. Maybe we'll get some dry weather to get things going, and then we'll bring in the rain after that. So we'll see how that goes. But right now, pretty quiet weather as we get into early May. Take care. Have a great week. Talk to you soon.